I am Kim Tracy with the Maxwell James Speaker Agency. So excited to hear Bob Tipton, who is going to talk to us today about how you lead people, you manage things.
Exactly, Kim. Now, this is an old saying. It's been around for a while. And doing some research, trying to find out where things actually come from, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to do. But quotes, this one I think is attributed to one of my heroes. Her name is Grace Hopper, Admiral Grace Hopper. I think she was the first female admiral in the Navy. And she was a hero of mine due to my previous life in the world of information technology. She's credited with creating COBOL. She also is credited with coming up with the term computer bug. Found the moth that was embedded in the circuit and took that out, the first computer bug. Well, she said this: you lead people, you manage things. By the way, she had another saying that just comes to mind. This one really speaks to me too. It's better to ask for forgiveness than it is to beg for permission. So anyway, Grace Hopper, a true hero of mine. Well, it's this notion that people don't need managers. We've never needed managers in the history of humanity. In fact, if you read Chuck Blakeman, he's got a book out called Why Employees Are Always a Bad Idea. And I really like Chuck's perspective about this. This notion of employer, employee, boss, and employee, the manager, is really a vestige of the industrial age that got started about 150 years ago or so, when machinery started coming in and we needed people to be able to operate the machine. In reality, what we were asking them to do is just be an extension of the machine. And they became interchangeable in that kind of a role. One person could do the same thing as somebody else, and the individualization was just gone. So we had this notion that in order to get the best performance out of somebody, they needed to be managed closely. Now, in reality, that doesn't work. It has never worked, and it reminds me of a Dr. Seuss book. There's a lot of things that remind me of Dr. Seuss. I forget the name of the book exactly, but it's All the Jobs You Don't Want. Well, there's this bee in the town of Hotch that isn't producing. So what the town leaders decide to do is to hire somebody to stare at the bee. So this person stares at the bee, and still the bee doesn't get any better performance. So the leaders say, well, it must be that the watcher's not watching closely enough. So they hire somebody to watch the watcher. And this person's staring at the other person's back while they're staring at the bee, and still the bee doesn't produce any better. Well, you take it to its conclusion inside the story and have this long line of people standing, watching the watcher in front of them, and still the bee doesn't produce any more. Well, the challenge is the bee doesn't need a manager. The bee needs a leader. The bee needs to be inspired. The bee needs some reason to perform better. Well, if we go all the way back to the totality of human history, just take this 150-year time period as being the aberration. The totality of the human experience is in this apprentice, journey person, mastery sort of a history, where you start as a beginner. You have a beginner's mind. You don't know exactly what you're doing. You have a sense of it. And then you learn from someone who then gives you the ability to have a mid-level set of experiences and capabilities. And then eventually you become the master, the sensei, the teacher. You become the elder that then imparts the wisdom onto the next generation moving forward. This is the way it's worked with humanity forever. Why aren't we doing it that way now? Well, the reality is, in another segment that you'll see also, this notion of being addicted to certainty and being impatient, is somehow we think performance management systems actually work. That if we put things into a person's annual review, it will change their behavior. Well, what it does is it causes them to do just the minimum in order to reach whatever sort of incentive that you've set up for them. It doesn't bring out their A game. It doesn't bring out their best. It's not inspiring for them. In fact, many organizations, large organizations, Accenture chief among them, are doing away with performance management systems. In fact, there's a study out just this month, in November of 2016, from MIT, talking about how performance management systems are irrelevant. Now, it's time for us to get on board with this. People are fully capable of making good decisions. People can choose one option versus another. People can learn and apply the stuff that they are getting from somebody else if it's given to them in a way that it speaks to their strengths. It captures their imagination. It gives them a path forward as opposed to, well, Here's your performance plan. This is what you need to do. And if you don't do this, we're going to punish you. So my question for you is, do you want the best out of your team? Do you want the people around you to bring their A game, to be fully engaged in the work that they're doing? Quit managing them. Lead them. Give them a reason to produce. Give them a reason to engage. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit more time. Yeah, it's messy because people are messy and they're challenging and they have emotions and you're going to have to deal with them one-on-one. But that's how you get the best out of the people around you. So stop managing. Start leading.
Perfect. If you would like to bring Bob in for one of his exceptional keynotes or workshops, contact me, Kim Tracy, through maxwelljames.net. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim.